Lobs it, end zone, intercepted. It's ball game. Alabama will win. Wait a minute, we got a flag down. For one monumental upset for the Aggies. King to throw for it, to the corner, incomplete. Alabama survives.
How do you guys feel about that play? When the game ended, I wasn't too happy about it. My thought was, you have a consensus best player on the offense. His name is Devon Achane. You give him the ball in that situation. The offensive line has struggled in everything having to do with pass blocking, but has found some success run blocking. You know, why don't you just get behind them and run it? Why don't you just do a zone read? Maybe Haynes keeps it and runs it in. Maybe you do a rollout. Something where it's not a quick read. You get to take your time and find something or run it in or something that gives you more options. But I thought about it, watched it a couple dozen times, and I'm a little bit more okay with it now. Here's why. What got you to this point in this game? You were desperate on offense to move the ball, to find anything, and where you found answers was in the passing game. Achane got relatively shut down this game because their front seven's ridiculous. Texas A&M's offensive line is not that great. They were relying on Haynes King getting the ball out quickly and receivers coming up with huge grabs. Because Haynes' balls weren't super accurate, though they were getting where they had to be to give the receivers a chance. Think about some of the catches that we saw by Moose, Stewart. None of them were like perfect balls in the breadbasket. The offense was Haynes and these receivers just making plays down the stretch. So I get going with that to try to win the game. Use what got you there. Feed the hot hand. Evan Stewart was the man at that moment, and they did not execute on that last play. It seemed like it was just a one read, throw it to the out route, throw it to your hot guy, just do it. Just throw it up, maybe he catches it, rather than let the play develop, because you just feel so confident in this guy, and that's what your offense kind of was that got you there. It was Evan Stewart. So, you know, you wish Haynes would have pulled out of it since Evan didn't run the route perfectly. Apparently, what I'm told is that that play to be run perfectly should be run a couple yards deeper in the end zone before he makes the out cut. And the timing on the ball was off, timing on the receiver was off. The play was off. It was a poorly executed attempt at a game winner. If you execute that perfectly, there's a window there. You can tell there's a window there. You can think that was PI, but there was a window there. Or Haynes could have not thrown it, extended the play, and made something happen. You can tell he was full of regret afterwards. The body language showed. I can't read lips great, but it looked like he said, "Why did I throw that ball?" It looked like he said something like that in the post-game scrum on the field. But I'm okay with the play. You roll with what you had going for you. I wanted to start things off with that play because it seems like it's still something that everyone's talking about. We had Johnny and Kellen Mond going back and forth on social media, not at each other, but just going off. Johnny had mentioned, "Oh my God, that's the dumbest play ever," and Kellen was defending the play. I was thinking roll out there, but after rewatching it, I realized they were on the short side of the field. Haynes is a right-hander. You can't really roll out with that little field left. I guess you can, but it's not ideal. I get it. It's fine. It was a poor execution more than anything, and of course that's the damn word that we all hate. It's true. Something that really got solidified this game, for good and for bad, was that this team is super young. This is a young football team. Third youngest in FBS by age in class. Third youngest. We saw true freshmen and young inexperienced players making plays versus Alabama in Tuscaloosa all night on Saturday night. These young guys are on the fast track to becoming college vets. Fadil Diggs has been flashing all year. He finally had himself a great game. Walter Nolan, a menace in there, forcing that fumble with my favorite forced fumble I've ever seen at Texas A&M. He just became a human missile and headbutted the ball from behind. It was glorious. It was calculated. That's what Walt does. Jared Kerr getting a sack, getting involved because of all these injuries on the outside. Denver Harris getting involved and picked on a little bit, but you have to take those lumps with these young guys. And, of course, and this will segue me into what my first topic of discussion, the offense, but of course, these young wide receivers. These guys are future stars at A&M, but also in the NFL. You can't tell me Chris Marshall is not an NFL body with an NFL skill set. Did you see how he was just schooling defenders in his route running? It was like a comeback route or a curl on the left sideline. They did a replay on it, and he's running like, it looked like he was running a go, and then his cut was just, or his stop was just beautiful. He just totally stops his momentum, turns around, soft-footed, soft hands, catches the ball. The defender is like 6 yards away from him, not even close to defending it. Clean catch. I mean, he could run routes. He's got the body. He's got athleticism. This guy's going to be a stud in the NFL. And then, of course, Evan Stewart. Just what instincts, what skills, what athleticism, everything. Evan has it, and he showed it this game. It seems like he finally caught up with the game, the college game. Because last week versus Mississippi State, he had his bad game. And then to redeem yourself on the road at that kind of environment, and he's just making man-style plays. Just, I mean, stuff you can't teach. Just contested catches, just physical catches, doing things you don't see from true freshman receivers against an Alabama defense nonetheless. Moose Muhammad has shown up this season. He was late to the party, but damn it, he's here. Moose looks great out there. As I said earlier, balls were not accurate, but they were in the area, and Moose was making it happen. He was getting these in-the-area balls. That one should have been a touchdown. Yet another whiffed touchdown pass to Moose Muhammad. And I think, once again, Moose slowed down on the route after rewatching it. I thought it was Haynes initially overthrowing him, but Moose slowed down on the route again. But damn it, his hands are good. He just needs to figure out his game speed, figure out the game. But those three receivers, and whenever Yule Keith comes back, that is a solid receiving core. And then you throw in Donovan Green, who just seems to make the most timely catches. Just the classic Jimbo Fisher safety valve tight end. And maybe soon to become a playmaking safety valve tight end that Jimbo loves to have. But right now, he is a textbook safety valve. Only 2 receptions this last game. But I believe one was on 4th down or 3rd down. It was either 3rd or 4th down. It was a conversion for a 1st down. And then, of course, the touchdown. Roll to the right. Donovan acts like he's blocking, sheds off, slips away to the opposite side of the field, wide open. That was a Jalen Weidemeyer play that we saw versus South Carolina the COVID year. Beautiful stuff. Sold it perfectly. Donovan Green is becoming something. Only 2 receptions, but as I said, huge. And that's how he's been all year. Just timely, huge, reliable in those situations. I want to see him get more involved. Let's touch a little bit more on Haynes. God, what a guy. What a guy in Haynes King. It looked like it was going to be a long, infinite night at the office for Haynes. It looked like the night was just going to be an 8-hour feeling kind of. It felt like it was going to be like a work shift. Just brutal. Got to get through it. Not a job that you want to have. Just got to slog through this thing. But he made it his dream job in the second half. What I really liked about Haynes was his ability to control the offense, get us in and out of plays smoothly, which is sometimes tough under Jimbo, and then just deliver catchable balls and keeping balls alive. He threw balls away when he had to. He was safe with the ball. That one that got intercepted at the half was extremely unfortunate. He was trying to throw it away. He didn't get enough on it. That is a tough front seven against a, how do I put this, learning offensive line. And they learned a lot of lessons last weekend. But Haynes, to be able to do what he did under that kind of pressure on that kind of stage, it wasn't a perfect statistical game, but he was a gamer. He was getting it done. He did enough to keep the offense alive and more. He put the offense in position to win at the end of the game. And yeah, he threw a couple balls up down the stretch. One to Chris Marshall, which got called PI. and then one to Haynes King off the back foot. They kind of just like lobbed up, one to Evan Stewart, and Evan made the play. It seems like they've been wanting to do that with Evan the whole year. I've kind of gotten the feeling that they're just confident in throwing it up to Evan. But give so much credit to Haynes. I don't know if he's the quarterback of the future. But in my eyes, I have no problem if he gets a second look after that performance. I feel like he's earned it. I feel like he's shown enough tools to be given a second look versus South Carolina. And I don't even know if you want to throw Wegman in there. What if Haynes can build on this performance? What tougher stage will there be? What tougher front seven? What worse odds on the offensive line, which was riddled with injuries on top of already being not so good in the pass blocking game? Let's talk about them. Trey Zune out of the game. Didn't play, didn't suit up. He was there on the sideline, not in pads. Aggie playing left tackle. I mentioned this in my last video. I don't like calling players out, so I'll be quick on it. I don't think you can trust Aggie to play on this offensive line right now. I don't think you can put him out there. There's too many whiffs, too many blown plays, too many blow-bys. Like I've said with Aggie, if you want to throw him in there on the goal line, he's huge, he's powerful, but he's a lunger, and he misses assignments. Need to get Trey Zune back. Cam Dewberry got into the game because Bryce Foster went down, and we already had the injury I mentioned before in the game, so we're on the third guy now. Or, hold on, how many would that be? Yeah, Wyckoff was playing left guard. Foster was at center. Aggie was at left tackle. So they had to move Wyckoff back to center, and they put in Cam Dewberry at the left guard. I thought he looked good. He looked way more physical and ready body-wise than I thought he would. And I don't think the offense really missed a beat. On that deep ball to, who was it? It was the deep ball to Evan. That not the miracle prayer. It was just the deep ball to Evan earlier in the game where Evan still caught it with double coverage. Cam Dewberry was the puller for, I don't know the terminology here, but he pulled and set up like a wall in front of the rollout for Haynes. Haynes rolled out right. Cam came out and became like the one-man wall in front of Haynes right there. He gave Haynes good protection there. Haynes got the ball out. I thought he looked stout. I thought he looked good. I want to see more Cam Dewberry. I think you try him at left guard. Moko's out. Aggie's having problems. Hopefully Trey Zune gets back. Bryce Foster tweeted that he's okay, but I've learned not to trust players' self-diagnosis at any level of sports. So we'll see what happens with Bryce. He went down really fast, but he was able to walk off at his own power. Right side of the line looked a little bit improved over the last couple of weeks. Still a tough assignment with these guys on that Alabama front seven. But I thought they performed fine. Left side of the line had the issues. The whole line wasn't great at protection down the stretch, though. That's a really good front seven there, and this O-line still has a ways to go. But I like the development of Dewberry now that Moko's out. I don't know what the coaching staff's going to do. I've said my piece. We move on. A-Chain didn't really get much going this game. That hurts. Someone you rely on, someone you would have liked to lean on later in the game. I get you can't really do that in the 2-minute drill, but in the fourth quarter, I mean, and you really didn't get too much from him. I do get the sense that he does get a little bit, he falls behind a little bit of the offense. I see him asking for plays from Haynes last minute, not looking super confident body-wise at times. He kind of falls behind, I think, when the game gets going in the pressure situations, which he's a college player. I think that comes with time. Still has about 60-something yards on the day. I mean, he had a 15-yard run there that looked pretty good. He got a couple of first down conversions, a really big first down conversion on that final drive on a catch where he just kind of muscled over the line when he was locked up with the defender. I mean, you still got serviceable stuff from A-Chain. He's a great player. Take nothing from him. But you do wish you got a little bit more, and O-line has to do with that. How did y'all feel about the scheme this game? I was good with the play calling for the most part. I mean, they took plenty of shots downfield. They tried to get A-Chain involved. Here are the few things I didn't like, some calls I didn't like. I don't think any of us can name a time the speed option has worked for this team. It doesn't seem like Haynes is making quick, snappy reads on it. I think he's a little scared to pitch the ball, too. I mean, he had a couple of cut-up lanes, it seemed like. They just don't take them. Speed option, they seem to lean on it in, like, high-pressure situations, third downs. I didn't like that third down screen where it's like there's a receiver screen on one side, but then you turn around and throw it to the running back where all the pulling blockers are going to, or all the screen blockers are going to. That play got blown up because Fothery couldn't stop Will Anderson, because Haynes is kind of rolling out, and that's a tough assignment for Fothery to block Will Anderson, who's just taking a cut right there towards Haynes away from Fothery. That's a very tough assignment against a guy like that. That didn't work. I wasn't crazy about that play. I don't think you run something so gimmicky in third and short. I mean, I get it. That's a talented front seven, and you're a little bit behind on offensive line. But I think there's enough success to warrant running something a little bit more safe, something with a little bit more options. Then it's like, if this works, great. If not, you're done. Like I mentioned to start the video, I was okay with that last play now, a few days later. I'm not too down on the scheme. I do wish he would speed it up a little bit. It seemed like things got sped up this game a little bit. I don't like the grinded out approach. I like to maximize the amount of time in the game with this offense. And I felt like they did that a little bit. I think they ran a lot more plays than typical. I don't have the stats in front of me. But it felt like they ran a lot more plays than they had the last few weeks. I would guarantee they ran a significantly higher amount of plays this game than the game before. Overall, only 20 points scored by the offense. 2 field goals. Kind of butchered that last attempt on fourth down, but maybe it was a blessing in disguise because A&M gave themselves another chance to go win the game. I'm talking about when it was fourth down, they were going to go for it and had back-to-back false starts, and then Jimbo goes, screw it, let's kick it. Just kick it. That was funny. And shout out to James Bond, or Larry Bond. The kicker, Bond, 47. Ice cold-blooded at Tuscaloosa, extreme pressure on the line, back-to-back kicks, nailed them both. And they both looked great. Randy Bond. I'm gaining confidence in this guy. That was awesome. Nailed 2 clutch 3-pointers. That was amazing. Happy with that. Want to see more of him? I guess not. You'd rather score the touchdown. But I'm confident in him. Aren't y'all? Isn't that a good development? Because after Caden Davis missed that one against App State like that, you're wondering, oh my goodness, what's going to happen here if we get into a big game? Randy Bond came up bigger than their guy did. But let's get into the defense, which I think was the story of the game, even though it won't get the headlines because of, the focus in Aggie land, from what I can tell, has been the last play calling, all that. But I don't even really have that big of an issue with that. Defense, I think we changed the game. And when I say we changed the game, I think we changed the game in terms of our defense for the season. Got healthy enough to go back into the 4-man front. I'm chalking it up to that till we hear otherwise. There was no McKinley. There was no Adelier. They went to the 3-man front because there was just no health there. You don't have your stars there. You have to throw in the young guys. I'm chalking it up to that because they got McKinley back. They were in 4 down pretty much the whole game. They have a stand-up rusher, which I like. McKinley Jackson can affect a damn football game by himself. My offensive line coach always told me that the single most impactful player, or the player with the highest ceiling for most impact in a football game, is a nose tackle, or whatever tackle lines up closest to the center. And I feel like that was the case with McKinley Jackson. McKinley had a constant push into the backfield, eating up blockers, blowing up plays, getting tackles. What a sight for sore eyes McKinley Jackson was. And he only makes the rest of the D-line and the defense better. Because you get Walter Nolan as the second DT, and oh my goodness. Like, what? That D-line went from a question mark to, holy shit, this thing's going to blow some crap up. I mean, my goodness. Just those 2 D tackles. And then you throw in the developing Fadil Diggs, who forced 2 fumbles and was all over the place. I think he was like 3rd on the team in tackles. I have it pulled up right here. He was 4th in tackles. He had 6 tackles as D end, getting involved in the run attack and forcing 2 fumbles. And he had 2 sacks. I love what getting McKinley back does to this defense, this defensive line. I love that they're leaning more on Walter Nolan and having Regis and Rakes as quality backups. I don't even know if Rakes played that much this game, but Regis was in there. Though that's some quality depth behind 2 stars. McKinley and Nolan are star football players on this team. Walter Nolan's a freak, man. He's undersized, but he just blows people up. He just blows things up with pure power. Imagine this guy gets 20 more pounds of force behind whatever the hell he's doing now. I mean, my goodness, buckle that chin strap, have your Wheaties. Holy crap. I mean, just thinking about it, it's crazy. Shamar Stewart's growing and growing, had a fumble recovery. Didn't get too involved, but it didn't seem like he was a huge weakness. The one weakness on the defense seemed like it was not being disciplined and quarterback contained. I think as has been an issue this year, linebackers were getting caught up in the trenches a little bit too much, getting caught in the wrong lanes. And say what you will about Milroe, that he was the kind of guy that make you pay for things like that, and we saw that in a long run on their second touchdown drive. But aside from that, I think Coop played his best game of the year. It seemed like Coop was way more active than we had seen him this year. He had a slow start to the year, but I think it's safe to say he emerged this game, and maybe the 4 down front, having McKinley back, really helped him out. It's amazing what having a strong nose does for a defense. Essentially, but aside the disruption and getting sacks and tackles, their main focus is to open up the lanes for the linebackers, eating up blockers. And I think that must have helped Cooper. And, of course, Chris Russell is still having his breakout season. He still looks good out there. And, yeah, like I said, they have their problems with hitting the wrong lanes or getting caught up. But I think you have to look at these linebackers as a very positive development compared to what we were thinking weeks 1 and 2. Not perfect, but as of this last game, they're making a positive impact. The 2 high safeties, Richardson and Jordan Gilbert, were all over the place this game. Damani's been known to put his head down or make a bad angle now and then, but I think he makes up for it with just his consistent, just being reliable in the run game, being reliable at just being a secure tackler, being a leader. Damani had 12 tackles that game. And this was a game where Antonio Johnson, he must have been schemed out of the game. He only had 2 tackles. And Damani and Jordan made up for it. I mean, maybe it's because they had a lot of down the field runs where Jahmyr Gibbs breaks through that second level and they had to tackle, but damn it, these guys were tackling and tackling well. I felt like Gilbert was all over the place. It just felt like a lot of players on this defense grew up in Tuscaloosa. A lot of these young guys, and of course, young guys in Jordan Gilbert, young guys in Walter Nolan, Fadil Diggs. Would you consider Edgerrin a young guy? Not really, but it felt like Edgerrin took another step. Chris Russell maintained his positive trend. And you can't take away what experience this and what confidence this is for some of these guys. That leads me to what I want to talk about next. You've done this. You didn't win, and no moral victories, but it is a fact that you can get better from losses. Everybody knows that. Everyone says you get better from a loss than from a win. There are more tangible lessons. I think when you lose and it triggers that emotional response, everything becomes more apparent, salient. I think there's so much to build from on this game. And I love that the bye week comes up right after it. My next topic of discussion is how this team needs to approach this bye week. If there's one thing I, as some random-ass fan who thinks he knows something, would tell these highly talented NFL prospects, if I were to give them advice, I would say, don't forget this feeling. Don't forget what happened in Tuscaloosa. Remember how close you were. Remember what it felt like to put that game together. The assignments are coming. The execution's coming. But it's the between the ear stuff that this team needs to also work on. Don't forget what Tuscaloosa felt like, what losing that kind of game feels like, and what winning could have been. Because you guys probably tasted it. We were right there. We were, oh my goodness, isn't it crazy? We made that a game. We got to within 2 yards of beating Alabama in a year in which we've lost to App State and got blown out by Mississippi State on the road. A year in which everyone had forgotten about A&M. Everybody had laughed and ridiculed A&M. The one rare scenario where everybody was rooting for the non-underdog to win a game, A&M was right there. One play away. So as much as we felt that, I know these players felt that. And what I don't want to see is them losing that drive, that feeling they had from that game. Because that is such an advantage if you take that into the bye week. You take that into practice. You let that sharpen you up. You let that increase your focus. You grow from it. You build on it. You carry over. You have 2 weeks to get healthy and to build on what happened in T-Town on October 8th. I think that can make or break this team. Have I said that this year? Have I used that? Has there been a situation this year where I said this might make or break the team? Probably. But I'm saying it again. Get healthy and don't forget this feeling. There are 6 games left on this schedule. At South Carolina, home versus Ole Miss, home versus Florida, on the road at Auburn, home versus UMass, and home versus LSU. Imagine you go to South Carolina, you win. You're 4-3, you're not ranked, you're still not getting much of a look because even though South Carolina did something, it's still South Carolina. And you get an undefeated top 8, Ole Miss top 5 maybe? Ole Miss, you never know what could happen. Coming into Kyle Field the next week, the first time we will get to see these Aggies after what happened in Tuscaloosa. Just imagine that opportunity for, obviously for us as fans it'd be fun, but for these players to come back home after what almost was and what could be versus South Carolina. Kyle Field could be rocking. It'll be like we never left. It'll be like we never lost to Mississippi State and Alabama. You know that would be a big game, and it's a winnable one for Texas A&M if they can build on what happened. You got Florida at home the next week. Could be another huge Kyle Field atmosphere. We're getting huge games, meaningful games late in the season at Kyle Field. How fun is that? On the road at Auburn. Auburn's falling apart. That's a winnable game. UMass. I mean, treat it like a losable game, but win it. And then ending the year with LSU at home. I mean, imagine this team somehow stumbles to 8-3 with LSU at home to end the year. And I'm way ahead of myself, but it's the halfway part of the year. Let's talk about it. Imagine that. 9-3 potential. We're ahead of ourselves here. We're ahead of ourselves. But after what I saw from Alabama, I feel so much better going into the bye as a fan, and I'm sure this team feels better. Alabama didn't play a perfect game, but A&M lost to App State. It didn't matter who A&M was playing. They were losing to App State. App State lost to Texas State. They got blown out by Texas State last weekend. It doesn't matter what the other team is doing. It's what A&M has been doing. And it looked better. And it was a cherry on top that it was at Alabama, even in a loss. I think it's becoming more and more clear that this team is just was not ready. Whether you chalk it up to coaching, youth, inexperience, whatever you chalk it up to, and I'm okay with whatever you want to point it to, you have your reasons. This team, for one reason or another, was not ready this year. But 6 weeks in, going into the bye, I have the most confidence in the team that I've had since before Sam Houston, maybe, but even maybe more now going forward. I mean, of course. But going forward for the second half of this year and the next 2 years, and of course, it's a next year game. The joke is A&M's a next year program. But college football is kind of a next year sport because it's a 4-year cycle for every player. So it's either you have a bunch of experienced guys, you don't. It's always a next year thing. You're always recruiting for next year. There's no long-term continuity in the sport. So yeah, I am excited for what's to come with these young guys. And I can confidently say that I am confident. So don't forget this feeling. Go to work. Attack this bye week. Come out the other side ready to go back to war on the road. You know, this team is road warriors now after those 2 big losses on the road. This team is 3 weeks away so far from Kyle Field. Going to be 4 or 5 weeks total. And then you get to come home. So guys, what are your takeaways at the half point of the season? I mean, I think I know where they probably are. You're disappointed. But we are where we are. I'm looking forward, and I think the team is too. It is what it is. We're 3-3. I don't think this team was ever going to win a championship this year. We're worse off than we had hoped. I think if we were 4-2 right now, we'd be about where we thought. But 3-3, that loss to App State just kind of looms over everything. But going forward, what do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Do you want to see O-line changes? Do you want to keep seeing Haynes King? Do you want to get a second running back more involved? I heard a lot of people calling for LJ Johnson in some of those short yard situations. Do you think we'll stick with the 4-man front? I'm so excited to see this defense get healthy. Are you? I'm sure you are. This defense is rolling. Well, they've been for 1 game. That's what I say. Don't forget this feeling. Build on it. You're excited for that. I'm sure you are. Tell me who you're excited to see on defense. Tell me what you're excited to see. Give me any of your thoughts, guys. I appreciate you all. I'll see you very soon. Thanks, and gig 'em. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing. It helps me greatly. And if you're already subscribed, hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next video. Thanks, guys. I'll see you very soon.